Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Good day, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Today, Jay Wilkinson is my guest. Thank you very much for being on the show, Jay.
Oh, it is my honor. Thanks for inviting me.
Fabulous. A quick word from our sponsors. Jay, have you ever exited? Have you had an exit?
I have exited 3 times.
And out of those 3 times, how good were your exits? Would you say that you enjoy them, not enjoy them? Were they good? Either or, there's no bad answer.
No, one I did not enjoy, I can say in retrospect. The other 2 I did enjoy, but they weren't as substantial.
Okay. So what did you not enjoy of the first one?
The very first time I had a major exit was, it was a magazine that I started when I was in college, a long time ago. And I sold it to another company that planned to kind of infuse it into their portfolio of products. And part of the deal was that I would go to work and help them, build it into their company for a minimum of 6 months. And those were the worst 6 months of my life. And I would say that largely the frustration is that I am a dyed-in-the-wool born entrepreneur, which simply means I'm otherwise unemployable. That's all that means. It doesn't mean anything special. But I just am not capable of holding my tongue and pulling back on my desire to change and innovate and implement. And it was really hard for me. So that's the primary reason. If I could go back in time, I would change that and say, look, you own it now. It's all yours. I've given you all I can give you. Call me if you have a question, but don't make me come into the office every day for 6 months.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so then what was good about the 2 other exits?
Well, partly because I learned my lesson on the first one, and they were clean, clear separation. And again, as I said, they weren't as substantial. They were smaller enterprises that weren't scalable as much as the first one was. But they were clean separations, and in both instances, the companies continue to do really well and are growing. And it's been fun being a cheerleader, as a founder of those enterprises, to kind of watch them grow.
That brings the 3 sponsors that we have. The one, so Urgio. So when a company is ready, and the catchphrase, are you ready? Are you ready to grow? Are you ready to optimize? Are you ready to consolidate? And ultimately, are you ready to exit? And so a lot of companies, we help a lot of companies. Urgio does a great job of systemizing what the qualifiers are and really targeting those key areas, because good process bring good result, right? So when you've got this operational excellence mindset within the organization, everything is done well. So therefore the exit is just simple math. There's no real kind of, we got to do this and the due diligence. If everything is spick and span clean, then the due diligence is a lot clearer, and then the decision to the exit is a lot cleaner. And you said it best. The companies are still thriving. So when you're selling to a strategic, it's most of the times the best sales is when the buyer falls in love with the organization and they keep it alive and they keep it going. So this is where STS Capital Partners come in, is really selling to strategic and removing all of that process and getting the extra. So that's our second sponsor. And the final one is, as we are going to talk about with the title, I'm not going to divulge the title, is when you've bought the boat, you've bought the jet, and you've spent all the money, you feel the need for philanthropy. You feel the need to be able to, I want to say it, but I'm going to keep the title. You want to do a lot more stuff with it. So therefore, Ultravest is the final sponsor, which is, once you've given it, Ultravest really helps with bringing good governance to those underserved non-for-profit, and making sure that the dollars that you actually give to non-for-profit is used properly, not to fill somebody else's pocket, but to go and do what needs to be done. So with that being said, I can't hold it back anymore. Jay, what's the title of the show? Because I want to say it so bad.
Well, we're going to be talking about the Do More Good movement.
Yes, do more good. Because guess what Jay did with his exit? So thank you very much. He exited once, not twice, but 3 times. And now you've got this great organization called Do More Good. Can you, let's keep it for, can you give us a little bit more of your journey?
Sure.
Where do you come from and all of that, so that they put context on Do More Good, if you're okay with that.
Of course. Yeah. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My grandparents and great-grandparents settled in central Nebraska, the middle of the state, wherever the covered wagon broke down. They said, well, we might as well make this home, right? Because they couldn't go any further. So in the 1800s, they settled in central Nebraska and started building businesses. My first business mentor was my grandmother, who lived to be 103 years old.
Holy Moses.
And she was friends with Buffalo Bill, of all people, in my hometown of North Platte, Nebraska. And I came out of there just with that mentality of, the farm and ranch communities that are really central to that region of America. I came out with that kind of upbringing and those roots. And so when I started becoming aware of my entrepreneurial wiring, I started several businesses while I was in college. Most of them failed miserably, just cesspools of death and destruction that I learned a lot from. But eventually figured out how to make it work and started to build some scalable, really fun projects, including the magazine that I've just mentioned. My primary business now today is a company called Firespring. Firespring is a marketing agency. It's a certified B Corporation. We are known for the good work that we do in our communities. We have thousands of clients all over the world in 14 countries and in all 50 states in the U.S. Those clients are primarily nonprofit organizations and purpose-driven businesses that we help elevate their brand, mission, market, and all of those things. That's what we focus on. And that company, Firespring, today is positioned to be around for 100+ years. We are an evergreen company. And we are going to be transitioning. We have a certain target set, and all of our employees in the organization know about this. We have around 200 today. And we are transitioning to an ESOP, an employee stock ownership program, at some point in the next 10 years when we hit a certain threshold. All of the current shareholders will essentially be bought out, and the employees will essentially take ownership of the business. And we have a charter to reinvent ourselves every 5 to 8 years so that we are perpetually going to be evolving, changing as an organization. We want this company to exist for 100+ years, and all of our people are bought into this mission, this vision, and excited to be part of that.
So for the people who are listening and don't watch it, you should see my face. I was like, damn, that is sweet. I mean, we can go. So did a podcast a little bit earlier with B Corp, specifically with James Strutter. So if you're listening, go to. So I don't want to go too much in details in B Corp, but Benefits Corporation bring a lot, and it's a employee-focused organization. I think what I liked about your story up front was, as an entrepreneur, you have a lot longer list of what not to do than to do's. And I think that comes when you hire for attitude, skill, knowledge, and experience, that knowledge of what not to do is as powerful as the skills that you have. So tell us about the time. I'm curious about the name of the company.
Firespring.
Yeah.
It's a name that our original name was horrible. It came from the .com era that is now, .gone, thank goodness. In the early 2000s is when we started. Actually, 2001 is when the predecessor, it was called Digital IMS. It stood for Digital Integrated Marketing Solutions. It's a horrible name. It sounds like you have gravel in your mouth as you say it. In 2007, we started the process in 2005. We went through a 2-year process to rename ourselves, to create a name that we could build an image and a brand around as we grow. We didn't necessarily want a name that where you hear the name and it defines who that company is, because we already knew, my leadership team and myself, we wanted to create an enduring business that we refer to it as an evergreen company that exists for 100 years or more. So we didn't, and we knew that whatever we're doing today, in 20 or 30 years, it's likely that whatever we're doing today is nothing at all even similar to what we will be doing in 30 years. So we wanted a name that we could build an identity around. And so we played with iterations that had fire and iterations that had spring, and we ultimately settled on that name. We kind of came up with it internally. And really quick side point,
of course,
when I bought the domain name, which I went and I did it from my Gmail account, so it looked like I was a poor college kid or whatever, said, I'll pay you $100, which we had to pay a lot more for that. But it was owned by a pagan worshiper in Virginia. So it took us about 6 months to get rid of all of the references to this guy's blog that is
oh my goodness. I hate trolls. I had to pay for the .com for one of our companies there, Urgio.com. We had .co and to pay for the .com cost us $5,000. And I was like, I'm not, and it's not that it's an immense amount of money. I refused, I refused to give somebody who thought about buying the .com for $12 and now selling it to me for $5,000. That's terrorism. I will not give in to terrorists. All right. So then tell us about, I just love your Do More Good. It's so powerful. It's so simple. It has action in it. It has immediacy into it. It has, in those 3 words, it is friggin' powerful.
Well, the genesis of what has become the Do More Good movement really started when I was doing some speaking at different conferences and events. This was before the pandemic, obviously. And I started getting questions from people like, okay, so you guys, our company Firespring has been featured in Inc. magazine as one of the 50 best places to work. And I have a TED Talk on culture that has more than 1 million views, and started getting a lot of questions about that. And all of that stuff is, it's marketing, it's positioning, it's meaningless, really, all of those awards and things. But people were asking, how did you do it? How did you build this company that is known for these things? And then somebody said at one of the events, they said, what is the future of company culture? Like, where's it going to be in 5 years? I mean, how are things changing? And I said, I have no idea, but that's a really good question. And I thought a lot about it. And I came back and I got together with my team, and we set out on a project. And over the course of about 9 months, we interviewed nearly 700 CEOs and executives from purpose-driven businesses, self-identified like Certified B Corps and 1% for the Planet companies, et cetera. And then we also partnered with a research firm that did several thousand surveys of people that work in these businesses. And essentially, that's the question we were digging into, is what is the future of culture and a purpose-driven business? And we started learning a lot of things. There were these consistent themes that came through. And the bottom line is that there's this sentiment out there that I believe now. I believe we're on the precipice of the biggest shift in business since the industrial age or maybe the computer age, the computer chip age after that. The biggest shift is around this shift to companies will not survive another 10 years, and I believe this, if they don't understand that they have to figure out how to put their people first and serve all of the stakeholders of that business rather than just solely exist to put money in the pockets of the owners.
I agree 100%. I am completely, there's no way in hell that the corporations and the businesses can't keep on thinking. It's not going to be accepted. It's just they're not going to attract the right people.
Yeah.
And it's just, and there are always people who I think money first, and those are what we used to call the go-getters in our younger age. Oh, they're go-getters. They're going to Wall Street. They're going to do this. They're the go-getters. Well, the go-getters now are not. When you hear and you see on Instagram and things like that, health is wealth. That should reflect in the corporate world as well, in the small to medium enterprises as well.
Absolutely. It's huge. It's everything. And then there's this sentiment that exists, especially, and I hate all the characterization saying millennials and Gen Z. It says they're all doing this. But there's this sentiment among young people in around the world, say 35 and younger, and there's some substantial research that has been done on this that NYU did several years ago, that if you're under the age of 35 and you watch movies or television, 80-some%, I don't remember the exact stat, but 80+% of the depictions of business owners and leaders in movies and in media is negative. They're
all evil,
They're stealing, they're taking advantage of people. And so there's no wonder why younger people have this fundamental ethos or belief that business is evil, or business is bad, or capitalism is evil. So part of what we're trying to do with the Do More Good movement is, first of all, educate and empower business leaders and the companies that they work with and for to understand that capitalism is not the evil thing. But there are aspects of capitalism like cronyism and corporatism that people are latching onto, and they think that is capitalism, and it's not. Well, the best products and services, the best companies, the best whatever rise to the top. That's capitalism, and in the purest way, it is the answer. It's not the problem.
Correct.
But we've got to figure out how to shift this narrative away, and I believe the quickest and best and fastest way to do that is to educate business leaders to tweak their companies around their purpose and make sure they're focused on how they can elevate the communities that they serve, and again, serve all of the stakeholders, not just the owners, but the employees at the highest level, but also the vendors, the clients, of course, that they work with, and the communities that they serve. There's so much opportunity to change that narrative, and not just with words, but with actions. And that's what the Do More Good movement is about. We're educating business leaders on how to do that.
We can't talk enough about this, that democracy was built on discussion. And I want to go back to that, meaning that, there's a democratic way to approach life in general. But when it comes time to businesses, there needs to be kind of like a ship. There needs to be a captain on the ship. There needs to be treated there's a mission and there's a purpose. Without the ship, there's no people. And so they'll drown or whatever. So you need to be conscious that the boat needs to be taken care of. But the best way to take care of the boat is to take care of the people first.
Yeah,
so if there's nothing wrong in being commanding, as long as you're compassionate and kind to people. People look for leadership, and it's hard to be an entrepreneur when you don't have. How many times have you said, Jay, in your life, I just wish somebody would tell me what to do, right? And you're just so exhausted of making decisions all the time, and you come home and you're like, and I tell this to Tracy, my spouse, all the time. I was like, okay, how can I help for dinner? Tell me what to do. I've been telling a whole bunch of people what to do all day long. So with that being said, I think the value that I think is important that you're preaching is, and I'm going to go into a touchy subject. My belief is that guns don't kill people. I'm not pro gun. I'm not pro anything. But the gun, when you look at the purest form itself, if you leave a pistol on the table, it's not going to shoot somebody. It's somebody who uses that gun as an intent to do something. So capitalism is the same thing. It's a performance tool. Capitalism is how the world was created since the birth of money and transaction. You started bartering. Well, Jay's got great turnips and I've got great sheep. So let's make an exchange. I want some of the turnips because I'm sick and tired of eating sheep. So, I want to make sure that my sheep are the best quality, because then I want more people to come and exchange goods. There's nothing wrong in that. It's what you do with the money. I think that's where the B Corp and everything that you're saying is critical, is what choices will you make as a billionaire, because billionaires are getting younger and younger and younger and younger. What choices will you make with that money? what is the company standing for in doing what they do with all the money that they have?
Yeah.
Right? Is that your? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, and I think even more important than that, Martin, in my opinion, is that a business needs to educate and empower all of the people in that business to understand the role or the roles that they can play along the way in that. So part of the ethos of Firespring, for example, we have this program, we call it the Power of Three. And what that means to us is that we take 1% of our top line revenue and we give it back to nonprofit organizations in our communities. 2% of our products and services are given away, so in-kind products and services to nonprofit organizations. And then this is the most important part, 3% of our people. And this is accomplished by, we have a requirement that every full-time employee in our company, that they volunteer for a cause or an organization or a nonprofit. It can be a church, it can be picking up trash in their neighborhood, anything that increases the fabric of life in the community, even volunteering in their kids' school. It can be anything as long as it is uplifting to the community. And they're required to spend one full day a month, or the equivalent of 8 hours in a month. And if you do the math on that, on a 40-hour work week, that's a little more than 3% of their time. So that's our power of three. And so it's paid time off. So our employees know it's expected of them. And when we do our quarterly conversations, we don't call them performance reviews. I don't like that concept. When we do our quarterly conversations with every team member and have a discussion about how we're doing, how they're doing, how can I remove obstacles for you, et cetera. One of the things we talk about is how are you doing on your volunteer hours, because it's such an important part of the fabric of our company. So having them understand how they contribute along the way, not just at an end point, is a huge part of it.
I do somewhat similar, but you have a title for it. That's even cooler. So the power of three. Let's repeat that. So 1% of your gross revenue.
So the way we refer to it, like the nomenclature is 1% of our profit, 1% of our products, and I'm sorry, 2% of our products, and 3% of our people. So our profit, our products, and our people.
Can we steal that? Can we offer that to other people?
More than welcome to use that. Yeah, I would love every company in the world to be using that philosophy. I think it's really powerful.
The power of three. That is so done. So by working with UltraVest, which is an organization so when we help organizations exit, we get a percentage of that, and that percentage UltraVest and STS match, and that's why STS is a great partner of ours, because they're like-minded, value-based organization to which we work with and other investors, and that's what we do. Now that 1% is there. The 2% we tend to always give a little bit extra, like the project leads for us. They'll go, well, that company needs a little bit extra, so I'll go do that. But naming it and making sure that there's KPIs against it makes it there's so much more accountability on that. And then you've identified the process as well. And then the same thing, the volunteering, regardless if you're coaching or let them pick whatever they want, but you have to give back and you're getting paid. Oh, you got a name for it, the power of three. Damn, Jay.
It's been a fun thing. And we also track it. I'm going to just grab this.
Yeah.
So every year we publish our Powered by Purpose. It's just kind of like our annual report. And one of the things that we highlight in here is the power of three results from the previous year. And so we track it. Last year in 2020, the financial impact in our local community was $2.8 million US.
Nice.
And we track it between profits, products, and people, and break it down. So we actually do a report and talk about it as part of our as part of our impact report for the year.
It's crazy how it brings me back to my mining days. The mining industry can be viewed as such an archaic yet closed-minded area. But when you look at the sustainability reports that every large, mid-tier to large mining, they all produce a sustainability report. And basically what you're doing is the same thing. You're providing a sustainability report of your service company, which is absolutely fabulous. So many nuggets out of this conversation, Jay. You're doing such a fabulous job.
Thank you. We've had a lot of fun along the way, and I guess the most important point on that point is that one of the primary tenets of our organization is to always be in the mode of a learner's mindset, not a knower's mindset. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners and watchers of this program have thought and heard a lot about that. But the point that I think is so important is that there is not a day that comes that we don't all look around the table at each other inside of our company and say, yeah, we've got this all figured out. Because the moment we say that is the moment we start to die on the vine. We know that there is a better way, and we've got to continuously be focused on seeking the better way to continually improve and be willing to kill the sacred cows. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean that we need to continue to do it that way. So I think it's important that we say that. When you say, we're doing things, I will tell you that we're looking around at each other saying, we've got so much to learn. We've got so much to figure out.
Absolutely. Now, there's a good little book, Kills the Sacred Cows, a tiny little book. And what was it got, like 90 pages or something like that? It's a great book. I think for us, I agree, our first brand promise is ignite curiosity, right? Be curious, ask questions. There's no... Biologically, human beings at the cellular level always looking to learn and adapt. And I think that's what too many people tend to die. They say, oh, I'm an adult now. I can't be curious, can't be... Like, I make fun, hey, what's this? And Gavin and I, my son, 10 years old, and we're always kind of figuring out, and he's asking Gavin, Dad, how are clouds made? Just being curious of nature brings curiosity, and it also brings kindness and compassion. Yeah. Because I feel that when you're curious, you tend to be more coming in as you're wrong. And so when you're coming into a conversation knowing that you're wrong, you tend to be more open to conversation and listening to what other people have to say. Very true. No, the one thing that I feel is what you're doing best is really creating a culture where that evolution is key to your success.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's what it's all about. It's about every day is a new day to find a better way, and you see that mantra around our buildings, in our various facilities. Find a better way is the mantra of our team and our company. And it's one thing to hang a banner around and pretend like that's what you're focused on. It is yet another to actually live that mantra in a regular rhythm. It's not easy.
So what's the biggest thing that you're faced with? What's the biggest issue that you need to solve when you're thinking about your B Corp and what you do on a day-to-day basis? Because I'm sure it's not all rosy all the time. Oh
no, it's in fact it's the opposite. The pandemic has brought about what is currently our biggest issue, and that is this reconciliation between work from home and work from office. And as a company that has built its reputation and our growth on our company culture, we built the culture around people working together. Coming into an office, we have this rhythm. We've been doing it for 15 years. It's a daily meeting. We call it our fire starter. We have the meeting every single day at 11:11 a.m. and it lasts 11 minutes. It never runs longer than that. It's 11 minutes. And it's all of our people coming together, and we do very quick reports. This is what's going on in the company. And the bulk of the meeting are people calling each other out, recognizing each other for living the values of our company. So it's just a love fest. Everybody comes together, loves on one another, and then they go back to work. We've been doing that every day for over 15 years. When the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden 90% of our team had to go remote, we had to really learn quickly how to make that a meaningful thing. So we now do a combination, physically present, and then lots of people on Zoom. And so we pivoted to really figuring out how to accommodate work from home. But at the same time, we haven't yet figured out how we're going to continue to build a culture of connectedness and inclusivity, and where we are able to have these random collisions in the hallway and build on each other's ideas. How we're going to do that in this new world where now 50% of our people, when they respond to surveys, say they would prefer to work at home for 3 days a week or maybe 5 days a week. that's a big challenge for us, and we're in the middle of working through that and figuring it out.
I agree. That's the same thing. I mean, that's the benefit for us, and it's also, I mean, the value that you gain from working side by side. Hey, I got an idea, Kevin, or Kevin says, "How do you do this?" Right? Yeah. There's that loss of, and what people don't understand biologically, you build oxytocin, and oxytocin is that love chemical of working hard, playing hard, loving, that comes through in a lot of the military, right? You've been in the military. Contact sport is a big thing because bodies are touching all the time. I've played rugby for 30 plus years. I can go to any other rugby club in the world and I will be welcome because we share the same values, but the oxytocin is very high.
Yeah.
Somebody was in the military as well. 8 times out of 10, what'd you do? What I do? Okay, great. We've got a fundamental alignment on I've got your back. And I think that's the one thing that I've got your back is really hard to build via Zoom. Now, on the other side, I've built relationship over the past 18 months, and I know Matt, one of our SVPs of sales. I know his family. I know everything, but I've only met him once.
Yep.
So, no, I hear you. What do you think the future brings?
It's something that we're asking that question as well. And we just had a retreat of our managers, and we asked that question because we have a strong belief that all of the best ideas in our organization are going to come from the front lines, the people that are actually doing the work, not from the top down. And so we're asking that question, and in fact, it is the major focus of our next managers retreat. That very premise of what is the future, what do we need to be focused on in order to properly build and extend the culture that we've built over the years to work in this new hybrid environment. It's really the biggest question that we have. I don't have an answer for it yet, and I don't believe that anyone truly does. One of the other companies that I'm a co-founder of was built totally on the premise of an entirely work at home. There's 70 employees around the world, and not a single one of them works in the office next to the other. So when you have a total a total remote workforce, or if you have an all physically present workforce, it's easier, not easy, but it's easier when you have all one way or the other. The hard part is when you're doing the hybrid.
I agree.
And we don't have an answer yet. I'm doing a lot of reading, a lot of studying, and a lot of asking to try to figure out where to go with that.
You mentioned something that we apply frequently within clients. It's called Gemba Kaizen, which is Kaizen to the ground, meaning that when you've got that proximity from worker to worker, they come up with all the decisions, right? So they go, how do I facilitate as a manager? How do I facilitate the movement of information, product or service or money at the ground level? So you kind of make it flow as best as possible. When there's a start and a stop between communication through teleconferencing, it's a lot harder for floor workers, frontline workers, regardless of the service or the manufacturing they provide, to be able to really look from the corner of their eye and understand what others are doing, right? Kind of like that water fountain. What'd you do for that client? What'd you do? Oh, did I hear you say that, right? As I went to go get my coffee. You did that? Oh shit, that's such a wonderful idea. And it's so boxed in now within that little, Zoom box. So do more good. Let's get to the meat of it. Do more good. What is it? What does it do? How does it work? All that stuff.
So for the last couple of years, the focus of Do More Good has been on our annual conference, which has happened essentially every May since 2019. Our conference that is coming up in 2022, we just made a decision within the last week based on the recommendation of the health professionals, because we have so many people that come in from around the U.S. We are pushing it off, sadly, because what we're being told by a lot of people I value and trust, that travel is likely for the next 3 or 4 months going to get actually worse, not better, before it starts to get better. But our conferences is the number one thing that we're known for. We have a podcast called The ROI of Why,
Gotcha.
and it's ROI of WHY.
Okay.
And a lot of it is built around interviews and discussions with business leaders around the world that are using their business and the rationale for why being a purpose-driven business makes sense. And really telling the positive stories about what that means. We are just now finalizing the last stages of our regional workshops. So our objective within the course of the next 12 months and and then ongoing for years to come is to be able to come into local markets and do a series of educational events where we will come in for like a 3-hour workshop into Vancouver, for example, and work with the Chamber of Commerce and bring in business leaders from around the community and walk them through all the variations of how they can execute on a purpose-driven business model so they know what it means. Like our board of advisors that we put together, to me, it's like the Beatles of the purpose-driven world. It includes J. Cohen Gilbert, who's the founder of B Labs, the creator of Certified B Corporations. Yeah. Rand Stagen, who is they call the grandfather of conscious capitalism. He was one of the founders, along with John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods, of conscious capitalism. Kate Williams is the CEO of 1% for the Planet. And then the fourth one is Preeta Bansal. And Preeta was in President Obama's White House when benefit corporation legislation was created in the United States. And now that legislation has passed in 27 states, so a company in the U.S. can register as a benefit corporation. So the 4 largest frameworks around purpose in business in the U.S., those represent our board. And so we're working directly with all of those major frameworks and movements to create inroads with local business leaders. And we're coming in to cities around North America to do workshops on how business leaders can guide their business down this path to purpose. Our objective is to go straight to be the feet on the ground, while these other frameworks are really focused from each of their unique perspectives. We're the agnostic trainer that's coming in and educating business leaders on all the different options that are available to them, and then helping them find their path. So that's where we're focused right now. We also have the world's largest repository of open source stories, ideas, case studies from purpose-driven companies. We have a directory of fellow travelers that includes about 70 different unique frameworks and ideas, different ways to pursue a path to purpose, and all kinds of educational content.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. What's the traction? Like, sorry, let me rephrase this. Why would somebody want to become a B Corp?
Well, someone would want to become a B Corp if they are called to a higher standard of being held accountable to the ideals that they believe in. In the U.S., and the benefit corporation, specific benefit corporation legislation is not yet available in Canada, but there's a lot of discussion around ways to incorporate that. But again, in the U.S., there's 27 states that have passed legislation now to become a benefit corporation. That's stage one. It's the simplest way to just make a proclamation that when matters come before the decision-making authority of this company, whether it's a CEO or a board, however they operate, when matters come before them, they will take into consideration the social and environmental impact of their decisions. So it's a very simple proclamation, and then you publish a report once a year saying how you're doing that. Certified B Corp status takes on a whole new level. It's not very expensive. It's like $5,000 US a year for the average company. It's not expensive to become a certified B Corp, but it is arduous. You're held to a standard from a third party, so they come in and audit you to make sure that you are walking the talk. And you have to go through about a year-long process of providing proof and documentation that all of these things that you say you're doing, you're actually doing. And so it just is a higher level of accountability. And it's important for us, and we decided to do that because, as I mentioned earlier, we work with mostly nonprofit organizations and purpose-driven companies. We help them elevate their brands and create loyal communities of influence for their products, services, mission, whatever it might be. And we also go in and work with leadership teams to help them structure a framework around how to make sure that everybody's on the same guide rails. And so the work that we do in those segments, we know that higher level of accountability is really important to a lot of our customers that we work with, to know that we're not just saying we're one thing and like doing another thing on the other side of the fence.
So let's say you're doing a workshop to do more good. You got a workshop and then I'll just pick Denver.
Okay.
And then one of the organizations that's there, the CEO says, how do I sell this to my board? So tell me, because I hear where you're at. And most people will say, what's in it for me?
Well,
right? So if we were to, how do I sell this to my board?
At the core of that is the work that has been done, and there's so many, I could cite lots of studies, but my favorite is by Raj Sisodia. He wrote a book called Firms of Endearment. And what Raj did is he surveyed data that's available from from the S&P 500, which is public data.
Gotcha.
And then he also worked with good to great companies because he was able to work through those organizations to get financial data. And he was able to compare businesses in different categories. And what we learned from that is that companies that focus on their stakeholders rather than just solely a profit number outperform the S&P 500 by 14 times.
Holy Moses.
So if you're looking for a financial reason, there's so much data behind that I could go into. Financially alone, it is a smart decision. If you know about BlackRock Capital, the largest private equity firm in the world, Larry Fink has said over and over and over again that he will not, BlackRock will not buy a company, and they instruct all of the CEOs, the hundreds of CEOs of the companies they purchased, that you have to have a plan around purpose in the business or you're out. He's incredibly firm about it. And it's becoming more and more apparent just simply from a financial perspective that it is the right thing to do. And you can go down stat after stat. 43% of consumers in the U.S. will spend more for products and services that support a cause. 71% of millennials spend more for products and services that are offered by a socially responsible brand. 3 times, it's a huge number, employees who derive a sense of purpose from their job and inspiration from their work are 3 times more productive in delivering the work that they do than their counterparts. And disengaged employees, Gallup has published stuff on this forever. Gallup said in 2019 that it cost U.S. companies $500 billion in lost productivity because of the number of people who come to work every day disengaged. So if you want to sell it to the board, sell it on profit and engaged team members and people that want to buy your products and services and want to work for the business because it stands above. And it's going to just a matter of time before that becomes the bar instead of the high bar that we're trying to reach. It's going to become the standard, and businesses that don't get it won't be around.
The big thing that I sell all the time in regards to doing ethical work to most of the investors and board members is, what do you prefer, profit or prosperity? And I go, what? Oh, do you want to make a lot of money now, or do you want to be as prosperous as possible? Do you want a safety net, or what do you want?
I love that.
Well, so I say, well, if you want, and they'll say, well, I want this business, I want my investment to prosper. Okay, well, it's profit plus sustainability.
Yeah.
Meaning that it's a fine balance. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to be lazy. We all want to do as little work as possible for as much money as possible. It's just human nature. We want to be as efficient as possible. There's nothing wrong with that.
And it's purpose. We hear all the time, purpose before profit. I don't like that statement. I think it's profit because of purpose.
Correct.
It's not
absolutely.
It's not purpose before profit. It's profit because of purpose. And the minute board members and other investors get their head wrapped around that is when we'll see true change.
It amazes me when we get a phone call from these entrepreneurs that are going, my business is so successful, but I'm so tired. I'm exhausted. And I said, so why'd you start it in the first place, right? They go, well, I wanted something better for my family. Oh, okay. So let's rewind, because back then you had to rewind the videotape. Let's rewind the videotape to the start of where you were. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you want to do better for your family. Now, who's included in your family? Does that mean that it's your neighbor, your friends? So now leverage your business to do good for your family. The reason that how you're going to do it is by making money. The more money you make, the more impact you have.
Yep. No question.
The more decisions that you can make. So don't think that money is evil. Money is not evil. Is what you do with the money. Back to the pistol kind of, the gun doesn't kill the individual. I know a lot of people that are rich and very kind and deliberate with their money. And I know a lot of people who are rich who are not. So, and again, frugality doesn't mean that you're not ready and willing to give. I think what we do at Urgio is we gift our time. Instead of gifting money, we do, but instead of gifting money, your 2% is, okay, you are a operational excellent leader. How can you apply your skills to this underserved non-for-profit? How can you help them be more efficient and grow? How can you see, deliver, and improve the value to their customers? Because that's what we do for profit company based. So apply that same methodology and apply those. So I think that you're absolutely right in saying how you sell to the board is really about asking that, again, being curious to say, hey, board, why did you invest in me? Right? Mm-hmm. I saw money in 10 years from now. Okay, well, if you want to keep in that path, then prosperity 10 years from now will be from a responsible organization, because that's what consumers want.
Yeah.
It's funny because every time my wife is an early adopter. She'll come in and she goes, hey, try this thing. It's in a new package. And I was like, it's eco-friendly package and stuff. And I taste it. I go, wow, that's disgusting. I'll eat it because you bought it and we paid a lot of money for it. That consumerism is ingrained in a lot of us, which I think is a good thing. And I agree with you. I think the cusp of just the division of politics and COVID, vaccination, no vaccination, I have faith in human beings that hopefully will meet in the middle and stop being such polarized groups. And I think the B Corp is a good way of not just the B Corp, but do more good. Yeah. How you're building your company, how you're having. Can you recall what the title is of what the company in a few years from now? It will be completely employee owned. So what was the title of that program? Or
ESOP, and the Employee Stock Ownership Program is what it stands for.
Yeah, fabulous. Jay, I asked this for all of my guests. What's the one resource, the one book, the one movie, the one comment, the one thing that has lived in your back pocket for as long as you've been an entrepreneur, leader, CEO? Well,
there's for me, it is an ethos, like a sentiment that came when I was 15 years old. I was attending a workshop. I got elected to serve on my student council, and as penance, I was told I had to go to leadership class, right? So, and over the summer between my 10th and 11th grade year, I had to choose between going every Saturday for 4 hours with this vice principal that reminded me of the guy that beat Judd Nelson up in the closet in Breakfast Club. I did not want to do that. So instead, I chose to go to this 4-day summer leadership workshop to learn how to become a student leader in my school. Going to this workshop changed my life. I went in like a wide-eyed, uncertain kid, like we all are at 15. And I came out of there wired with the heart of a servant leader. And there was a particular quote that it hung on the wall. We were in groups of 12 students that we all got to know better than our own family. It was my first experience ever of getting to know other people at a really deep level beyond just sports scores and whatever. I remember there was this little sign in the classroom, and I got to take it off the wall and bring it home. It still actually is on my mirror at home or my closet. I've had it my entire adult life. And it's a quotation from Stephen Grillet, and it says, "We shall expect to pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness I can show, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again." And that sentiment got deeply rooted in me as a 15-year-old. And that's the sentiment or the ethos that Firespring, my company, was founded upon. And I have this sign on big signs all over our building. So our team members all see this and know, and they're attracted to be part of this journey we're on because that sentiment is alive in our organization. So I think this understanding that we can give people ourselves and kindness, especially during the pandemic, give each other the grace that we need, but yet at the same time, we can be firm, we can be resolute, we can have each other's backs, we can conquer hills together, but we don't lose this aspect of having each other's back, which is one of our 3 core values, which is really what that's all about. It's about the kindness and the support that we give one another, whether it's a teammate or a neighbor or whatever it is. We're all in this together. And so that sentiment is the one thing when you ask, like, my entire journey, that's the thing that has been present for me.
It's crazy how tight it is to mine. As I was, my dad was an alcoholic, so I struggled with my journey as a teenager, and I got in trouble. I mean, we were poor, and like young men do, get in trouble, and my community service was, because I played rugby and I was very good at it, the judge said, well, you're going to coach this lower income school that started rugby, and this older gentleman who was a coach, and still to this day, Marvin, I remember him, and he said, one job as a coach, the one job is to help the athlete believe in themselves. And that, I mean, if you've watched Ted Lasso and he has this, believe, I was like, damn, you stole Marvin's thing. Yeah, and from Nebraska as well, love Ted Lasso. And I think that I kind of stole something from the Stoics, the Stoicism, to kind of close things off with you is, Stoics have this thing that says, if not me, who? If not now, when? And I think that resonates a lot to what you're doing with Do More Good. I think it just resonates, comes full circle on what you do and how you do it, Jay. I hope that whoever's listening or watching understands the value of focused, powerful, positive energy that Mr. Wilkinson has. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to join you and to be here with your audience today.
Fabulous. Thank you. Well, with that said, I have to tell you, please like, subscribe. Damn it. I was like, I always forget. So please like, subscribe, and notification bell, because that's what the marketing. No, I can't say that either. I'm going to get in trouble again. Jay, thank you very much for being on the show. My name is Martin Hunter. I'm the host of What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Thanks for being on the show, Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.